Welcome back to Maximum News. I am Max, joined as always by Sybsidian of the Triple S League. We have so much stuff that we got to talk about today, guys. Let us not waste any time. Sony State of Play. We're starting off with that. All the stuff that was announced last Wednesday on the 31st of January. We're now recording this, unfortunately, a week late. It just happened to be aired the day after we recorded the last podcast. But we're talking about it now. We're not going to go through, well, I don't know. Syb might want to bring up stuff that he's interested in, which I'm not going to talk about because I'm not so interested in. We'll see what happens. We're going to try and highlight at least all the most important stuff. So, obviously, just off the top, because everybody knows that I'm a huge Silent Hill guy, if you want my in-depth thoughts on both the Silent Hill 2 remake trailer as well as Silent Hill The Short Message, which I managed to play through, I have videos dedicated to both on my main channel. If you want to go check out those, you can click on the link in the description box below. Just a very, very brief impressions. Silent Hill 2 remake trailer doesn't really make my enthusiasm go up or down. I have some optimism from the trailer, but I also have some pessimism. I'll go into more detail in that video. And then also with Silent Hill The Short Message, I appreciated it, and I think anybody who considers themselves a huge Silent Hill fan or a fan of survival horror should give it a chance and see how they enjoy it. Again, more detail in the other video. So, with that out of the way, holy crud, Syb, we got a whole lot of stuff that we got to get through. I'll just cite the major things that sort of stood out to me. Stellar Blade. We finally got a little bit more of an idea of what the structure of the game is going to be. I think it's safe to say that it's sort of like a combination of Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and Nier. If you took all of those games' combat styles and aesthetic and then merged it together. And that's sort of what Stellar Blade is, with obviously some, I don't know what you want to call it, fan service with the main character. It looks interesting. Nothing that, like, in terms of like mechanics and stuff like that we haven't really seen in other games, but it does look like a fun time. If it has a good story, I'm definitely inclined to pick it up. But, you know, nothing jaw-dropping. Just really, really good showcase. Judas. One of my most anticipated games, obviously, because it's being led by Ken Levine, the guy who behind such classics like System Shock 2, BioShock, Thief, one or two others I can't remember off the top of my head. We finally got a bigger look at the game. I think this is the first time we've seen more of it in about a year. I'm surprised about how much this game basically looks and acts like BioShock. Like, it's it looks like, if you hadn't told me the name of the game, I would have just assumed that it was BioShock 4. But, you know, obviously because Ken Levine is working under his own studio, Ghost Story Games, I think they are, he can't use that anymore. And who the hell knows what the hell's going on with BioShock right now. But it looks interesting. We don't really get much more of an idea of what exactly the story is going to be about. But I do know, just on the little bits of the characters here and there and the environment, I do know that I'm intrigued. I do expect a lot of social commentary, which is sort of typical of Ken Levine's games. And yeah, we'll see what comes of that. Got another trailer for Dragon's Dogma 2, which is more stuff like showcasing how awesome the combat is, which I kind of already knew. Cannot wait for that game. Until Dawn. We heard rumors that game was getting a remaster a few weeks prior to the Sony State of Play. I'm all for it. Like, Until Dawn was a surprise hit when it released, and I went through it, and I really enjoyed that game. And I think it would benefit from a technical upgrade, because if you tried to go back and play that on the PS4 now, it kind of runs pretty poorly. Not that great. But yeah, having this update, 60 frames per second, graphics, keeping all the face models for all the original actors is going to be really, really great. So kudos to people who enjoy that. Now, as for my most, just a couple of my most, my biggest surprises, the things I'm most enthusiastic about. Syb, holy crap, Rise of the Ronin looks so good. Oh, I cannot wait for that damn game. It's like a combination of Assassin's Creed's open world and traversal with a Ghost of Tsushima-like aesthetic, but a little bit more modern, and then Neo-esque combat, which makes sense because it's made by the same people that made Neo, but it has guns because it takes place in the 19th century. Oh, yeah. So we're going to be able to play as samurai, and we're also going to wield guns. What more do you need to say? This, like, we can go a little bit more into that in just a second because I want to hear your thoughts, Seb. But then, of course, obviously, I think the biggest surprise of the entire event, and just like the one that created the most positive buzz, was what Kojima had to show us. He showed us Death Stranding 2 on the beach, which is a stupid subtitle. But whatever, it's just a subtitle. Looks very, very intriguing. The two standout things to me are obviously like the difference in biomes and areas that we're going to be traversing again. Instead of just sort of the rocky, grassy areas along with the snowy areas of the original game, we get like desert areas, like marshes and flooded areas, and even big cities appear to be a part of the game as well. Looks gorgeous in the Decima engine. And then also some of the ways that they're teasing the way that the story is going to go. They had me when they had a guy wielding a guitar gun facing off against a cyborg ninja. Like, that is quintessential Kojima, and I'm all here for it, baby. I cannot wait to see how that works out in the final game. And then, of course, finally, apparently Kojima is working on something like a new action espionage IP, which we're not going to see for like the next 6 or 7 years. But hey, it's nice to see the man who was, at the forefront of one of the greatest action espionage games of all time, obviously Metal Gear Solid, being able to dip his toes back into that genre. And hopefully it's not like 10 years, maybe it's like 5 or 6 ideally. But yeah, at least we have Death Stranding 2 and OD to whet our appetites until then. Anyway, those are the major ones that stood out to me. There were a bunch of other ones that I don't think we're going to get to. But yeah, what did you think about the ones that I mentioned, and are there any ones that I missed?
Nothing really else to add to that stuff aside from just like Stellar Blade. Looks, it's a smaller-ish studio working on it, and it looks like visually it looks really good, but mechanically it looks like there's a couple of like some tuning up they could do with some of the fights and animations. I hope it does well because it's one of these games that has way more social commentary around it than actual like game commentary around it. And it's one of these things that I'm hoping that it does well, because I'm annoyed with the idea that there's certain body types that you're just not allowed to put into games anymore because it's not acceptable, which is like, this is so dumb.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, you want to make whatever game with whatever characters looking whatever way you want, that's fine.
It's like do whatever, but like why are you telling other people what they can and cannot add? I find that like peak privilege to tell other people what they can or cannot do with their games, because it doesn't conform to your sensible Canadian tastes. To borrow a line, no, I messed up the line. I'm doing the line from Scott Pilgrim.
Oh,
sensibilities, yeah.
Okay,
your delicate Canadian sensibilities.
Mm.
God, I love that movie so much. It's so good.
Dude, I saw that movie in the theaters. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I did too, and it was really good, and it was really crazy to see how like the younger generation totally got it.
Mm-hmm.
The older generation, like anybody like at my age or over, most of them just did not get it at all. Not in the slightest. Only the younger people did, and they were like, "Oh yay, look, the all the things." But at any rate, Stellar Blade looks great. I like the general concept. I hope it does really well, just to put kind of a sock in it with the whole argument, because it was scanned from an actual like athlete model, so like you can shut up about it being unrealistic. It's perfectly normal. So so that was the big, and it's surprising, because right now that is the predominant storyline that took over all of the news that came out about that. So little of what actually happened there at the showcase was like bigger news than that. That was the one big piece of news that's been basically everybody's talking about it. And I hope that it doesn't spoil the game in the sense of like setting up as being a masterpiece AAA experience when it's not. It's like
No.
it's a smaller studio. You can't expect it to be at that level. I'm sure it's just a good game
Yeah.
that people can enjoy, and that's the whole point of it. And that's sort of my point with the talking about the social commentary on it is like people are distracted with what games are supposed to be doing. No. Games only supposed to be keeping you entertained, right? And telling a good narrative story or giving you a good experience. It's not supposed to be, raising a placard for every particular thing that's currently in season right now.
Yeah.
So
If your attitude, like, if you look at a piece of art and you say that that piece of art was supposed to do something else, then you don't understand art. Period.
mhm,
Yeah. So
exactly.
it's too bad. I'm definitely gonna check it out once it comes out, provided that most of the reception is pretty good. Because yeah, even though 2024 is going to be mostly a down year for games coming out, I'm still quite backed up at the moment. Like God, I'm playing Persona 3 at the moment. What the hell am I thinking? All right. Anyways, yeah, I suppose let's just cap this off. Like, what do you think was the best thing that was showcased? For me, it was Death Stranding 2. What about you?
Death Stranding 2 again because of what it means, and I really do hope that we will see him push towards that not having it be exclusive.
Yeah.
I hope he'll continue on that because it's so important for just the health of the industry as a whole, which we'll end up talking about in the next story here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just having these games come out and having them accessible by more people is better. And I'm hoping that Kojima keeps that running.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody's going to be able to keep it running, it's somebody with the industry pull that Kojima has. All right. Yeah, so that was our brief thoughts on the Sony State of Play, ladies and gentlemen. What did you think of it? Do you what would your overall rating for it be? I'd say it's like a B. One of the better showcases that we've had in a while. Let me know in the comment section below. What are you most excited for? I'd like to hear that as well. All right. Saib, this I don't actually know what the heck is going on with this. I just know all I see on my Twitter feed, all I see on my social media over the last 2 days is just stuff like rumors going on about the people at Xbox possibly bringing over their IPs to PlayStation 5. I've heard people talking about it, but normally when I hear people talk about these big rumors, there's usually a story at a major news place to go along with it. But I didn't see that. Maybe there is. What's going on with this?
So basically, some news leaked from mostly just a single source, but some other places here too, enough to kind of more or less confirm the idea that, and it's not everything. Like people are kind of running away with the idea now. It was basically that they're saying, all right, Indiana Jones, Starfield, and a couple other upcoming games are not going to be exclusive anymore. Right?
Okay.
They're going to come out to the PlayStation as well, so that I don't know if you've heard of this concept in business. It's a complicated one, especially in today's world. But you make money, and from the stuff, so you make something and then you sell it for money, and you get money. I know it's a very bizarre concept.
Wait. Is that true? Maybe we should tell the people over at Square Enix about that.
Or Nintendo, or any other industry or company that has been for the last few years has been oh yeah, that idea of making money and things. And again, the insanity is all these companies dying. And I'll point out the game that looked like BioShock is another great example. It's like if they had just made more BioShocks and just instead of talking about like, oh, this new company that kind of looks a little bit like BioShock, instead if the conversation was, hey, look, the new announcement for BioShock 7 just came out and it looks great. How much more money would some of these companies make? And that's the thing that absolutely drives me bonkers, is that there are these games that people want. People desperately want this stuff, and nobody's making it for them. And so what we're seeing here with Microsoft and Xbox becoming a little less is I think a kind of a realization that they do need to focus on that whole process of mind of like selling games, making games. Like your turns out your bottom line is not structured completely. It is a little bit, but it's not completely structured by how you screw over your competition. It's mostly structured on how many sales you can get for your products. So the smart thing to do is to just put your big popular products out there to make as much money as you can, because why are you limiting yourself on potentially millions of sales? Like, that's the craziest thing. Yeah. And again, we've talked to death about it from other companies, but it's like how is it that they've not gotten to this point to see that that's in their best interest? And other people in the industry, again, like Kojima, are like saying, actually, you know what, I do want this game to sell on the other console because I don't want to miss or lose out on another 5 million sales that probably would have like propped what we're doing up more so than not having those sales. Mm-hmm. And again, with the idea of the upcoming games with Starfield, obviously this is going to be at the sort of like the new, like they're doing a big overhaul expansion for it. It's coming. They're gonna do a big thing with especially the Indiana Jones game. Why would they just like look at I would say probably like if Indiana Jones is good, like decently good, like really, like if it's like not the greatest game of the year, but it's like a strong contender for that. Mm-hmm. If that game comes out and it's only on Xbox, you'll have what you've had for years. You'll have one good game that doesn't get quite the reaction that it should because it's only available for a quarter to a half of the people playing video games.
Yeah.
And it's just not accessible in any other format. Then you look at, Baldur's Gate, where it's on everything and almost almost everything. And it's like, wow, that really went further for a company their size. They did fantastic. So how much more would it be when you're releasing Indiana Jones as kind of an original Indiana Jones, not the kind of new stuff, but going back to the team favorites and saying, here's this product, we want to sell it to as many people as we can. And that's what they're doing. Are they going to just no longer be in any way, shape, or form doing any exclusivity? No. Mm-hmm. No. And they're not even really interested in exclusivity right now. What they're interested in is they're interested in boosting up their subscribers. That's where they're going to hold and retain and grow, I think, because hardware is going to become less and less of an issue moving forward. At some point, there's going to be a point where we hit with the hardware. It's like the kind of example that I like showing is like calculator, right?
Yeah.
Like you go back to when I was a kid, a calculator was really expensive, especially a good calculator that could do more than just simple stuff. Like those graphical ones, they were thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
I had an older friend who was going into college and he was going in for this like very complex engineering, or I think it was engineering or architecture thing.
Yeah.
And his calculator was $5,000.
$5,000?
Yeah, this was way back in the day where laptops didn't do this. Like this wasn't a thing because laptops at the time were barely a thing. And so you needed to have this basically this miniaturized computer that could do these very complex, like long long page long
Yeah.
computations
Yeah.
of like that. The page is the question, right? You like he showed me a question when he was going. He's like, I have a test. On the test there are 4 questions. Here's the 20 pages of paper that I need to those pages those questions are on. So
Right.
so that kind of stuff where it's hyper complex, right? Now you have it in like you can create a disposable, you know, a calculator and throw it on inside of a cereal box and nobody even bats an eye, right? Like
Right.
just like it's a child's toy at this point. And that's I think the direction that we're moving in with the hardware for the consoles is at the moment we're still at this point where it's really expensive to make consoles. The companies don't actually make a lot of money. In the first year,
Yeah.
they lose so much money on those consoles because they're all bleeding edge tech. They have, all this pricey stuff in it. And both for Xbox and for PlayStation in some years, they have lost money on every single thing that they've sold.
Right.
Every single console that they've sold, they've lost money. In some cases, I think it was in not the last generation, but the one before. It was like they were losing like $300 to $400 on every single console. Both of them were, but they were going hog wild into this because they're like it was the peak of the war, right? It was the peak war kind of mentality, and I think Xbox won that generation. Then they came
Xbox
out with the next
360
one.
certainly did, yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
the Wii, but, between the two of them.
yeah, and so like I think that smart people who can look, far enough down the future, they're gonna say, yeah, at some point, like the box isn't going to be that big. The box that sits in your room, or in your living room or wherever, that box thing, that's not going to be where the price is. That's not going to be the thing that you're getting. That's
Yeah.
not going to be the primary thing. The primary thing is going to be probably subscription service, probably some kind of possibly some kind of VR AR unit, and then possibly most likely it's just going to be sales of the games, right? Sales or being in a monthly subscription that allows you access to the games. And that's where I think Microsoft is starting to go, okay, then we need this out. They're not getting rid of all of their special, limited super special exclusives over here, but they're going to be putting the ones out that are going to make them a lot of money, that they want to make them a lot of money, and that they want to get bigger. And I know that they've got big plans for Starfield because they're hammering quite hard. I think Bethesda needs to understand that they need a way better Q&A, not Q&A, like testing division.
QA, yeah.
Yeah, like they really need that. That needs to be bigger, and again, with the community that they have, they really should just start bringing in tons and tons of people to just sit down and do the play the game in early beta, in early alpha, and help that do it Larian did. I am now convinced that that is the best way to design a game, because especially when you're working on it for 5 to 6 years, you need that feedback so that you don't make a design decision 2 years, 3 years into your thing that kicks you in the butt 5 years later.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to have that level of understanding, and that's going to be the important thing, because they need to change that up. So I think that's what Microsoft is doing. I think they are forward thinking here, and I think this is absolutely fine. I think this is legitimately something that is going to work for them. So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite clear that that's where they're going, just with the way that not only what Xbox is planning to do here, but what PlayStation has been doing recently by bringing all their games to PC. It's just because that's where everything's going right now. It's all about software. It's no longer about hardware. I mean, people even 10 years ago when Xbox One and PS4 was coming out, people were talking about, well, the way that it's looking like Microsoft is going to be handling the Xbox One, it's pretty soon going to be the death nail for consoles because everybody's just going to switch over to PC if they're just going to treat the Xbox One like it's a PC, you know, adding DRM and all that and family plans. But that's been staved off, but not forever. It's only for a little while. I imagine by the time like the PS7 would normally come out, things will start to be a little bit more homogenized. Before we move on for this, I got to ask you, Sad. Do you think that of the franchises they're looking to bring over to PlayStation, that one of them will be Halo?
That's a good question, and I would be more convinced if Halo wasn't in a really bad position right now. The direction that they were going originally, where we were told, yeah, they've got all this cool butterfly tech and all this other stuff, but then for whatever reason, they stopped thinking about that and they moved into a completely different direction with it. And then they tried to like have this thing and it's just a big mess. Like it's a huge mess. I like gameplay was always good, but the story was always really important. And I think they messed that up on 5. Was it 5 the 5 was the worst one where they had this idea, they had this concept of like, you know, introducing new main characters and the story writing was like not as good as it could have been.
Yeah, and the marketing was completely misleading about the way they were going to handle that story. And then they messed it up so bad that when Halo Infinite came out, they basically just tried to resolve it completely off screen, which it was kind of the right decision a little bit, but even then, like the way that Halo Infinite handled it, it wasn't that great. So yeah, and I say that like brokenheartedly because I'm one of the biggest Halo fans on the planet. I think it would be in the Halo franchise's best interest to be on PlayStation. Because if Halo is ever going to be able to get back to the status that it should be at, where it used to be a legitimate competitor to the likes of Call of Duty, it should be on as many platforms as possible. And yeah, that's how you're going to get that multiplayer base back. And of course, you need to have, like, if they're going to pursue the live service crap, they're going to need, as many customers as possible to serve to, as well as a lot of people behind the scenes creating stuff that people are going to be willing to engage with. If they take what they have right now with Halo Infinite and have it complete by the time whatever the next Halo is going to be, while also adding on top of it just a little bit, I like to think that people would be more willing to give it a chance. And by having it on PlayStation, that would certainly help. Did you have anything else you want to say about that, or should we move on?
No, it just boils down to, if you're trying to make money and if you need these studios to make money, get them onto more bloody platforms. It's just that simple. And again, we look at all the mistakes in the past. We look at Nintendo suffering and losing and hemorrhaging money at their worst time, and people begging them, here's buckets of money. Can I please play original, Super Mario? Can I please? I just want to play Super Mario on my phone, you can
on my
computer, on my PC, legally. I just want to do this. And them looking at them going, no, don't you see we're bleeding cash right now? Don't you understand how important it is for us to make some money here? We have to come up with something new. It's like, just give us what we're asking for. So this is, again, I think this is forward thinking. I don't think it's the people going, this is the end of Xbox. They're not even going to make another console. Oh! That thinking is just like, calm down, guys. Calm down. That's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're just being smart.
Yep. They're just being proactive. Yeah, Nintendo, take note. All right. Let's move on to this, the other sort of big story this past week. Side, a couple of games came out last week. One of them was Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which we're actually going to talk about a little bit later. Another was another game that I mentioned just a second ago, Persona 3 Reload. Put about 4 hours into that game. It is a lot of fun, but it's Persona, so of course it is. But there was another game, a little game that some of you might have been hearing people disparaging on the Twitterverse, on Facebook, Instagram, MySpace. It's a little game called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. More like kill the franchise, am I right? No, okay, that was an easy one. But seriously, we have been dreading the release of this game. It came out last Friday, and the reason why we've been dreading it is just because it seems to be not... this is sort of the general sentiment online. It's not in line with what people sort of wanted from the studio that was producing it. In case people don't know, just very brief recap. Rocksteady produced this game. They're the same people that produced the Batman Arkham games, some of the most beloved single-player games ever, and arguably the greatest comic book-based video games ever made. They were the ones that produced this, and it's, it has some of the DNA of those games, at least in terms of the world that Suicide Squad is set in. But in terms of gameplay, it's a pretty big departure. It's no longer like single-player-based adventure game. It's a live service game that you play co-op. And, you jump around shooting guns, and it's very reminiscent of the likes of Anthem, where you defend points and just defeat a whole bunch of guides, horde modes, that sort of thing. And people were just sort of saying to themselves, well, why would I engage with this when there's so many other games that are doing it and are likely going to do it better? And, the game came out, and from everything that I could gather, that's exactly what the game is. The most positive thing that I could get, that I could glean from a bunch of reviews of the game, is that while the story and the characters were likable to a decent amount of people, not everybody. And what else here? There was some appreciation of the way that the movement and the combat feels, but only for a while. Because after the first 2 or 3 hours of playing this game, it mostly just evolves into the typical bland live service formula that we've come to expect from games like Destiny. And one thing that is sort of both like a positive, I suppose, in regards to the games industry moving away from this trend, but maybe a negative for the people at Rocksteady, is the way that people have been responding with their wallets. Saib, I'm going to put this into perspective for you, okay? You remember Marvel's Avengers? Remember, not the movies, the game. Remember that huge disaster when Square Enix put it out? On Steam, the all-time peak player count for that game was 28,145. Can you take a guess as to what the current peak player count for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is?
I'm gonna guess probably half.
You're not far. That's pretty close, man. It's 13,459, which is just under half. So that's not good, guys. That is definitely not good. And with the reviews coming out from major outlets, mostly hovering around the 5 to 6 out of 10 range. Some of them are giving it a 7. And a whole bunch of user reviews, particularly on Metacritic, maybe being a little bit more harsh because it's user-related reviews. This isn't boding well for the game and for Rocksteady in general.
You wanna hear harsh? Just wait till you hear what I gotta say.
All right, well, please go ahead.
So, first of all, I would like to ask the listeners, what is their perspective of this game? Have you played it?
Yeah.
Are you interested in playing it? Like, what's going on there? Because I have been combing through, and I literally mean combing through. I have been combing through all of the posts on Steam for this game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I am extremely confused. I don't want to say that there's some kind of a conspiracy or Steam is doing something nefarious or anything like that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to put that out. I don't want to kind of feed into the idea of organized something going on. But I will definitely say there is something wrong here. I for 100%, I will say there is something very, very wrong here. I do not understand how when I go to their Steam page and I look at their game and I look at the ratings on it and it says very positive. I'm like, huh, that's kind of, I was expecting it to not be very positive in the Steam reviews.
Well, just in respect to that, one thing that sort of added to my confusion. Let's see. I thought I wrote this down. Oh yeah. So if you just click on the game's page and look at the front, and you look at the area to the right where you see the word "very positive," and then you hover over it, it says that 84% of the reviews there are positive out of 2,900 reviews. But then you click on where it says very positive, and then you look at the totality of the reviews, and there's apparently 4,634 reviews in total. Now, again, I'm not like to what you're saying, Saib. I'm not saying that there's any sort of conspiracy going here. I'm sure this is sort of like a glitch that happens with a whole bunch of other games on Steam. But it's weird because you look at the reviews on the Steam page, and even the people that are saying that it's like not that bad, they're even saying, well, I wouldn't have paid $70 for it. It's fine, but I mean, yeah. But sorry, continue.
The most common positive review, after having skimmed about 2,500 reviews, the most common positive review in the majority is not worth the price.
Yeah.
Wait for a discount, not worth $70, is a $30 game, don't buy microtransactions, that kind of stuff. And then there's the negative reviews, because those are the ones with the thumbs up. Those are the majority of the thumbs up ones.
Yeah, and I can vouch.
Down one.
I can vouch for what you're saying, Zab. I looked at those too, and yeah, he's right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the thumbs down one. First of all, I'm having an issue where I've highlighted and I've actually gone to some of these actual negative reviews, and I've held them there, and then I've refreshed. In this case, I refreshed like about 8 hours later. Some of them are, I just get an error when trying to physically view that. These aren't, by the way, these aren't small time like 1-2 people reviews, like, responded reviews. These are people who have like, 19 to 20 plus awards. These are people who have like they have reviewed hundreds of products.
Yeah.
They own thousands of products in their account. One very good detailed review had 315 products in their account. Had reviewed many games, and was positive. That review was a negative review, basically stating, play another game. Don't play this. This is just not worth it. It's not a good experience for even being in the, like, Babylon's Fall was about the same. Like, this is the level. The only thing that you have different is that it's the Suicide Squad and you're killing Superman and blah 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 blah. And can't see that for whatever reason right now. It's extremely bizarre in that. And then just the bulk, just again, scrolling through hundreds of things using, on the web page, you push this in, and then you go and you just go, type in the search bar, like not space recommended. And you get a vast majority of that, like thousands of hits of that. So I'm really confused to how these numbers are working. I'm not saying it's conspiratorial. They are they do. There's an algorithm that kind of like curates these reviews and kind of gives you what you think you might want to be interested in the review. So stuff like that can obviously like skew it, and I might be skewed because as far as my review, air quotes, of the game, I have not played it. I just watched a bunch of people playing it. I checked out some live streams, and I gotta say that this is one of the most embarrassing AAA products I have ever seen.
Sure.
Ever. the lack of imagination, the lack of story writing, the amount of seemingly stupid stuff thrown into this is the worst I have ever seen from a AAA company.
It's a stereotype.
It's not only is it a stereotype, everybody moves around like Spider-Man for some reason. Everybody has a grappler Spider-Man swing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't latch onto anything. You're just doing that. You're doing the Spider-Man. You remember at the end of like the first the first
right, where
live action Spider-Man.
I'm hoping he's latching onto a helicopter or something.
Yeah, he's on the top of the tallest building in New York. He puts his hand up and he shoots a web. It's like, what are you shooting at? Are you shooting at a passing helicopter? Maybe at a plane? And he swings off of it. You're like, what is going on here? And again, it's like, there are 1,000 different ways you can make high mobile characters that can transcend like, big movement and stuff like that. The fact that they're all Spider-Man, the fact that you couldn't really like come up with something new, come up with something different, when you've got 20-year-old MMOs coming up with dynamic movement for their mounts, it's like you can't be bothered to do like just more than just the one thing. The gunplay is like, it is boring AF.
Yeah.
It is the whole concept. The writing is so bad.
Oh yeah.
It is atrocious. It's like, and maybe they were going for this. It feels like Saturday morning cartoon villains dialogue that somebody who wrote that as a living, it's all they're experienced with. They went and saw Deadpool and they were like, oh wow, edgy stuff. And then this is their first attempt and this is the first draft. A lot of it doesn't even make sense. There's very little logic to be found. The storyline is just an incoherent mess. I don't understand why this is like who asked for this, especially after a bunch of these other games came out and failed. Right. The difference in the visuals, like people are posting these things from from Arkham, 9 years ago, and then comparing it with the characters, the visuals, and the gameplay today, and 100% like this is a backgrade in graphics from, sure, there's more and they're rendering more stuff on the screen, which is true in the form of there's more interactable things, whereas when you go to Arkham there's not as many interactables and there's not as much a bunch of other little things. It's like, sure, but it looks like a visual downgrade from where we were 9 years ago. How is that even a thing?
Yeah. And working on the game for 9 years, from what I understand.
Yeah, so I and again, it's like to make the characters look better. All they really would for Harley Quinn, to make her actually look good, you just import the model from 9 years ago, and it stands up better than the current one does.
Dude, yeah, you're so right. I saw those memes about how much better it looked in Arkham Knight somehow. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, 9 years, and this is now, again, I would not have an issue with this. And for the most part, I don't actually care about this game. I think that this is a failure of the company, a failure of leadership, a failure of what the industry has been trying to cram down our throats for years. Here's a game that requires next to no thought. It's just a generic looter shooter that rips off of essentially Fortnite and two of the other terrible, FPS monetization heavy games that you've played in the last 5 years. There's nothing new to it. The storyline is written by somebody who doesn't understand doesn't understand the depths of genius writing that's gone into comics for the last couple of decades, especially in the early years. It's like they didn't have any of that. They pumped this thing out in this blob of I guess it's done, here you go. And they're the people trying to defend this from both the industry and in some cases the reviewers.
Yeah.
For some reason, which I'm super confused as to why the reviewers are like, this is the best game. You need to play this game so that we stop something. And you're like, what is this something that you're trying to stop? If this gets a bad review, it's going to be bad for, think of the election. What are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. This makes no sense. And I've seen so many of these articles online in the past few weeks where it's like, no, you have to like this game. Otherwise, the other side will win. What other side? The side of the people who like good games?
Marvel?
What? I don't know. That's the thing I'm so confused about. Are they talking about Marvel? Are they talking about this other stuff? Is this some kind of like weird culture war thing that's going on? Why is it suddenly a culture war to have a game that has actual, like, good visuals? Just like high res, cool visuals. Batman in Arkham 9 years ago looked badass and so cool. This thing looks like they literally took the worst visuals that they had in the era where he was on the TV, in the 70s, where it was like really kind of like really goofy kind of looking, and the costumes were like, you could tell that they weren't very good, and of course they had no ability to add special effects or anything like that. And then you said, let's take that like 2 steps up. That's it. Just 2. It's like it's not even at it's not even in the realms of like bad 90 adaptations. This is like worse in 1,000 degrees. And they said, that's it. And then somebody is like, but ma culture war. And I'm like, what culture war? Is this a Marvel thing? Is like, what are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it past it to be a Marvel versus DC thing, because I'm still flabbergasted. Like, honestly, dude, anytime I hear, like, I read an article that seemingly has nothing to do about Xbox versus PlayStation, I just look in the comment section, and the first comment is about how, this is a big blow to Xbox, and this is why PlayStation is better, or vice versa. It's so stupid. People who are console fanboys are like the lowest IQ individuals. I cannot stand them. And it's the same thing for Marvel versus DC.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, but even then, it's incomprehensible to me. So I share your frustration.
Yeah, and Max is talking about the people who they like the console. The console is part of it's their religion, right? Like, he's not talking about like, oh yeah, you enjoy PlayStation because it's a handy device to have, and you enjoy it. He's talking about people who are like, if you play on the other console, then you're a degenerate who doesn't deserve forgiveness for anything. And again, I've heard this line, that exact quote, by some famous idiot online recently. It's like, anybody who disagrees with me doesn't deserve forgiveness. This is a serious take. And it was about some inane, like, stupid, like drama, like literal drama online. Like, he said this, he said that. And it's just like, yeah, that's the kind of craziness that is seeping into some of this stuff. But I will say this 100%. I don't know why they made this game, how this game got to this point. It is quite possibly one of the worst AAA things I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I see this as a majority from people giving this reviews online. I see people with like 30 hours in the game saying, please do not play this game. It is not good. This is terrible. You're just feeding money into a system that thinks that this is the kind of garbage that they can feed you and then demand, $70 to $100 out of you. And if this continues, that's all we're going to get from the big AAA, which is fine, because that just means that indie games are going to rock their socks.
Right. Well, thankfully, as I said before, it seems like if this game is any indication, maybe the trend is going to like die out relatively soon, because 13,000 peak players for a game that's supposed to be a live service. Just to close out on this, if I were to guess what the motivating, like how this game got to the point where it was finished and released, I would suppose it was just Rocksteady's pedigree, as well as the fact that up until recently, comic book properties were pretty hot. But unfortunately, like the underperformance of the movies in Marvel and DC over the last few years has sort of killed the hype train behind that fad. Maybe it'll come back, but that might be another element. And then also, just finally, like the premise side is just flawed from the outset. Because somebody once asked me, like, look, if you're in a war between the heroes from Marvel and the heroes from DC, what side would I be on? And I instantly said DC. And they said, why? And I said, because they have Superman! And you think the Suicide Squad is going to be able to take on Superman? Are you out of your... Okay.
It's the Omni-Man fight, right?
Right.
Like it's the Omni, and I love Omni-Man. I think The Boys is like there's some logical stuff that are having issues, but I don't find a logical fallacy when I read or watch Omni-Man and that whole series. There is a little bit in The Boys, but yeah, no, you're right. It's like no. Harley Quinn is not going to take on
the Flash,
Superman,
yeah.
And again, the mechanics of the fight were like Superman flies around, then he stands there, and you're able to shoot and DPS him, and it's like no. Superman, you blink, and he's already got you in 20 different pieces, arrayed in a little a little banquet table.
Yes.
And that's just it. Yeah. And again, it's like it's with the whole like, oh well, like Bruce is they were able to kill him. No, I guarantee you, if Bruce was like a literal madman who was using anything like smartly, like you walk into his lair. First of all, it's not his lair. It's not even like his primary like crap. What's the word? It's not even his first fake lair.
Yeah.
It's his fourth fake one. And you walk in there, and then one of three things happen. Either a nuke goes off and incinerates you and everybody else, or the whole room fills with there's a particular there's a particular white powder that you can kill a lot of people with, and that just rains down from the ceiling. Or you walk in and it's suddenly flooded with the ocean and it cuts off your... That's what fighting Batman, if he was totally like... he's got billions to spend, he's got an absolute vendetta against you, and he has no morality whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's who you're fighting. Not some guy who's like, oh, I'm going to run up to you and punch you. Like, what?
Yeah. Anyways, you guys get the point. The Suicide Squad, it's a bomb, and deservedly so. Unfortunately for Rocksteady, a legendary studio, but fortunately, maybe in regards to maybe we will soon see the end of this stupid live service trend. All right, we're gonna end on a positive note. The aforementioned Grand Blue Fantasy Relink that came out on the 29th, I believe. Saib and I have been playing it, and I think it's safe to say that we're both really enjoying it. Now, Saib has put in 20 hours into it. I've put about 8, and I'm sort of restricting myself to one character because I'm playing this with family. But Saib is...
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about this game, is that you can hyper specialize into just one character.
That's what
because
I'm doing
they all have a lot of depth in for what it is, right? This isn't like you're not dealing with like 45 different abilities. You're dealing with a really different play style for each character, as much as I would say a little bit more than most like fighting games or like side slash scrolling fighting games or like beat 'em up games.
Yeah.
Like it's you're dealing with a big loadout of skills, a big combination. You can roll a whole bunch of different stats and stuff like that. So that's 100%.
It's very, so It's very intuitive. In case people don't know anything about Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, it's apparently this really popular franchise that I personally wasn't aware of until my wife made me aware of it. But this is sort of the first time that's coming to consoles and not like mobile style type gameplay, but more like a
Yeah.
typical action RPG. We've talked about it. I think in our top 10 most anticipated of 2024. I said it's very much like Tales of Arise or Tales of Berseria, the Tales of games in terms of combat. Yeah, it really, really nails it, Sybe, in terms of the combat, in terms of everything.
Mhm.
What I love so much about this game is that it somehow manages to engage you and thrill you with the combat and the high fantasy worlds that they've set up here, while also somehow being one of the most relaxing gameplay experiences that I've had in a very long time. It's not anything like mind blowing, but it's just a really solid experience. Everything about it is like all the disciplines that go into it is either a very solid high 7 or low to mid 8 out of 10. That's what Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is for me, and it's such a pleasant surprise. I cannot wait until my wife gets off work so that we can go back to playing some more of it. Yeah, so like, what are some of the things that have really been standing out to you that you've been really enjoying?
So the characters again really strong. This is their strongest suit. Is I would say the characters. If and again, I cannot emphasize this enough. If this was the how MiHoYo made their games, I think that they would have about the exact same amount of success.
Yeah,
Because right now, MiHoYo, those are the guys who make Genshin Impact and Honkai stuff.
yeah,
Is like you have to pay and roll and pay and roll and pay and roll and pay and roll to unlock certain characters. I think that this is a system that works. There's no microtransactions. You every time you get to a certain story chapter, you get the ability to like try to recruit another hero, and then you can develop and construct your team as such. I think this is a far superior format than the microtransaction, uh,
yeah.
squeezing
Format.
blood from stone kind of thing that other companies have done for a long time. I really do wish. I hope that Raid Shadow Legends puts out a new game in the future that's basically exactly like this game,
Sure.
where you can have all these different characters. There's no microtransactions. They just charge you a fee, like a one-time kind of thing, and you're done. I think that would be great because this is what people look at Genshin Impact. They're like, but I love this style of game. This is what a good version of that game is. You've got bosses, you've got the ability to play with other people online, you've got the ability to like mix and match your teams to hyper specialize. You can really specialize in this game. I know you haven't hit this point yet, but you'll eventually hit this point where you get to add customizations to your weapon,
Okay.
and you get to add a lot of them.
Oh,
So
right on.
and so you can really tailor your experience if you want to become a more beefy tank. You could do that. If you want to become a hyper specialized backstabby kind of rogue who never gets the attention of the boss, you just can't handle it. So you want to avoid that kind of thing and just have your other companions, whether they're AI or friends or whatever. If you want to have them tank the boss, well, you're the DPS. If you want to be a dedicated healer, these are all things you can do within the game, and you can do it on almost every single character there is. That's a
Wow.
really cool thing about it,
Yeah.
is that each character has a DPS talent tree, and then they have a defensive / support tree, and you can chase down whichever way that you can go, and you can specialize as you're leveling, as you're playing through the story. You can just do whatever you want with the characters, and you can learn how to play those characters how you want, and then you can customize them when you're making them for the AI. If you're just playing with your just playing with the CP, without your friends, or if you're playing with the friends and you're trying to like do combos and stuff like that. It is a wonderful experience. It is really good, and I have to say that this is what we want more of.
Yes.
This is the kind of thing that I want to see more of, these like traditionally very microtransaction-y type games. I think this is they went from that kind of mobile type experience game. I haven't played any of the other ones. I have checked them out from time to time, like just kind of looking at it. I was like, microtransactions. No, I'm gonna say if this is what they stick into, I'm gonna support them 100%. And I think this is exactly what we need. My only critique, and I really mean this, I want more studios to look at how the character interactions were in Baldur's Gate, and I want to add more of those to other games.
Yeah.
For example, if I want to murder one of my potential companions in the game because I absolutely hate them with every fiber of my being, I want to be able to do that. I really, really want to be able to do that. I just really want to, like, there's a character, no spoilers. I definitely want to throw this character off of the boat as we're flying over, I don't know, say a volcano.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
No, you don't.
Oh, really?
You're not in far enough. No.
Oh.
And it's between that. So just the kind of like, I hate these characters. Like, I hate this character. I am morally furious that this character exists. I don't want this character to exist in my game anymore. Can I please kill them permanently? That would be very nice. And to give the credit to Baldur's Gate 3, even though I did kind of want to kill Vampire Boy at once, turns out he's actually got a kind of cool side, so I haven't actually done that in my official playthrough.
Right.
But still, the frustrating thing about the game is, like, some of the characters you're like, can I please not talk to you anymore? Can you please go away? Can I put you in a box in another room and I'll leave you back at camp and you just make the food for us. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then there's and it's not just this game that does it, but it's the hey, you're fighting a really hard boss, and then the Saturday morning villain shows up and is able to, like, just beat you in one swing, and then you're stuck on the floor and you're like, this is dumb. I was doing so good. I just did, like the world's, like, top 1%, like, on this last boss. I was able to smoke it. This is absolutely a joke. And then this dude shows up and they're like, haha, we wanted you to kill this boss. And you're like, why? You could literally have done it in one attack wave. What? I hate that. I was complaining to Mooney about that earlier. I'm like, I hate it when games force you to fail in a cut screen. In a cutscene, not cut screen, in a cutscene where you're forced to fail to, like, advance the story, and you're like screaming. I'm screaming at this screen, going, I could have beaten you if this game was playing fair. And that's what I love about RPGs that give you that, and then they give that writing. Like, nothing made me more happier to kill certain NPCs in Baldur's Gate. And again, exactly the same thing here is, like, I haven't finished the main story yet, but if I don't get to push somebody's head into the back end of, like, of a roaring, like, jet engine, just, if I don't get to do that, I'm going to be very angry at the story. I'm going to be really angry at the story because it's like, it's making me feel things and like certain characters, and then they do things, and I'm like, and I'm trying not to give any spoilers, and I'm just angry, and I'm like, I want to kill this SOB. I want to kill this. Why can I kill this SOB? Like, brutally? Because you can do that in other games, but I don't know if you can do that here, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm only like 20 hours in, so not finished the game.
Yes.
But
I think it's safe to say, though, that the positives in Grand Blue, despite that negative, are going to
that's a hyper me thing, right?
I know.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, our general recommendation is that you should absolutely go and pick up Grand Blue. Do not pick up Suicide Squad. And if for some reason you're not interested in Grand Blue, then definitely go pick up Persona 3. That's actually been a lot of fun. I'm not in any place to review it at the moment. I'm only 4 hours into what is supposedly an 80-hour game. Oh, God, what am I thinking? Anyways, guys, that will do it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, by the way, before you tune out. It helps us out a lot when you do that. Plus, it's quick and free and easy to do. Make sure you leave a comment if you have any thoughts on any of the stuff that we talked about this week. If you have any praises or criticisms, whatever, we want to hear from you. Just keep it civil. Side, thanks as always for doing this with me, man. Anything else you wanted to say before we finish?
No, we're working on stuff and updates and things. So yeah.
All right. And if you guys want to check out those videos I mentioned before about Silent Hill, just go over to my main channel. I also got a new video coming out next week where I talk about why the 4 classical elements show up everywhere in media. I'm going to be diving into that. Until then, and until we do our next episode of Maximum News next week, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.